it's the Cannon Cruisers. I'm JD, and this is Randy.
Hi, everybody. I'm Randy,
and he's excited to be here. Today we're going to talk about a film called
Radioactive Dreams
from 1985.
You got it right. One and done.
One and done.
A little film. This is a cult classic, directed by Albert Pyun, I think his name was. Mm-hmm. And that's our little intro to the thing.
That's our introduction.
So what basically this movie is, Radioactive Dreams, is a pastiche of post-apocalypse and film noir.
With some comedy.
Yeah, some comedy, yeah. Mm-hmm. And a lot of music.
It's a real mixture of genres.
Yeah. And it follows the two main characters, yes. Philip and Marlowe, yes, named after the famous character played by Michael Dudikoff and John Stockwell, mm-hmm. Leaving the Fallout bunker after, 15 years, 20 years?
15,
living alone, mm-hmm. And setting out to discover themselves, and along the way, having their lives changed by a femme fatale. Caught up in either saving or destroying the world.
Yes, that's the long and short of it.
That's the long and short of it.
Yeah.
But we'll elaborate more on it. And so, what did you think of Albert Pyun's?
We're not really on today, folks.
Radioactive Dreams.
We're not really on today. I really enjoyed this movie. There's not really many movies like this. Post-apocalyptic detective noir / comedy / science fiction. Really difficult to describe.
I think they're actually not specifically this mix, but there is other movies like this, and I can at least name one or two of them off the top of my head. There's the early 2000s indie film Six String Samurai, featuring Buddy Holly wandering the wasteland with his guitar and katana.
But that's way after this film.
That's way after this.
This was made in 1985.
And then there's also the famous film A Boy and His Dog that also covers a little bit of the similar thing, but more into the post-apocalyptic and less with the genre mashup. What?
Well, yeah. The film starts in 1986 and technically takes place in 2001, and yet everybody's into basically cults that are very similar to the 1980s. So it actually does feel like the world ended in 1986 and was frozen there when they came out in 2001.
I like the little mixture of genres. It's because it's something that it's near and dear to my heart. The noir literary genre. Mm-hmm. I also enjoy post-apocalyptic stuff. And I guess we're going to talk about our highlights because I don't want to conflate the impressions with the highlights section.
Oh yes, the highlights.
So for me, I guess the highlight of the film was. There's an early action sequence, the one I'm talking about. Yes. It's as they first leave the Fallout shelter, and as they're getting embroiled in the whole femme fatale, save the world, mm-hmm. destroy the world thing. They're getting into a fight with a motorcycle gang, mm-hmm. and it's just such a weird, dumb fight. You have one character, Marlowe, doing backflips in the back of a trailer trying to put out a fire, mm-hmm. and then you have the other one putting a brick on the gas pedal and fighting another woman on top of his
on the hood. Yeah.
On the hood. It's just such a dumb thing, but that's a specific scene that really stood out to me.
Mm-hmm.
But actually, a lot of the weird little action not footnotes. What would you call it?
Interspersements.
I'll remember my word after.
Told you we're not on today, folks.
Yeah, it's like as an aside here or digression, we've been having a rough day trying to watch movies.
That's why we're basically recording this out of order, and we're going to place it later in the season, so you won't really know when we're doing this.
Yeah, set pieces. That was the word I'm looking for. Set piece. The action in this film is a good highlight, mm-hmm. but the comedy's pretty good. Everything just works in this film overall.
You can see why it's a cult classic.
Yeah,
and
I really apologize if it's we're really random out today.
I'm actually having a problem with highlights too, because this is actually the type of movie I like, so picking one thing out of it to choose as a highlight is a bit difficult. I would say I like the mashing of the styles the best, because it's not just like film genres they mash up. Like I said before, with the 80s cultures, you have greasers, new wavers, metalheads.
I like the reasoning behind it. It isn't that it's frozen in time, it's that there's a scene early on where one of the other, I guess, femme fatales appears, and she goes, "What's your headspace, man?" The headspace being, what is your escape from the reality you live in? You have the disco dinks, which are two little kids that dress up like they're disco drug dealers, John Travolta. You have your greasers, because this is what they use to escape from this terrible environment. It's this really cool little makeup. It's like the little subgroups.
And it would be frozen in the 1980s because that's when it first happened. So it actually
which
makes
coincidentally
sense.
resulted in the music of 2001 being just new wave.
That's basically the soundtrack, which is probably another one of my highlights. I actually really like the soundtrack to this movie. Very catchy. And before we go into
I'm going to place this here because it's not really a highlight or a low light for this one, but maybe it might be a low light for me.
What?
Is it possible to have too much music?
If it's a bad musical, probably.
Because, well, divorced from the film, I go, yeah, this is kind of an enjoyable soundtrack, but I found that sometimes it would just go on way too long, the actual songs.
Oh,
or the songs would be too on the nose to the action going on.
Oh, I can see that. Yeah.
Like the whole entire last 2 songs in the movie literally coincide exactly with what's going on in the film.
Well, that's segue. Let's go right into the lowlights then with that.
Like I said, this is neither a low light. It's just like the question. It's the legitimate question is, can there be too much music? Because it actually brought me out of the film.
I could see that.
It's like there's situations where they decide, okay, we're going to play this long new wave song, and it felt more like a music video and less like, or actually more like they walked into a music video than an actual scene occurring.
I could see your point on that one.
And it felt like at times they could have maybe have done more with like a instrumental soundtrack, even if it was like synths and just.
There were some instrumental pieces.
Yeah, but it wasn't interspersed enough. It was literally like, hey, here we're gonna play these 5 new wave songs back to back to back, and they're all good songs individually, but they all start to sound the same as things go on.
Yeah, it actually is kind of a shame though, because the instrumental pieces that they did play, I actually really liked. They were very fitting. They actually felt very 80s, and they felt very film noir at the same time.
Like I said, I guess that would be a low light for me for this film. It's just that it felt like the
music was too busy.
Yeah, it distracted from the film itself. And there's, like I said, there's that scene where it literally felt like they walked into a music video because the singer's singing into the camera, and she keeps like really vamping for the camera and getting in the way, and what they're doing is happening in the background as they're walking through to the penultimate scene.
They're basically walking through chaos.
And then we get our Bollywood ending, which, like I said, is like not a low light.
I like that.
Not a low light, but it's also not a highlight for me. So I'm just placing it here, where it goes back to my thing that's a little too on the nose. They walk out and they start singing and dancing, doing the post-apocalyptic jitterbug or dance.
Yeah.
And once again, with lyrics that are way too on the nose.
Well, yeah, but it wasn't like the music was really playing. It was more like it was in their heads. So it's not like a big dance.
Here, let me bring you back. How about the scene with Rusty? Well, I should really go on about some of these characters, but the femme fatale number 2 and love interest number 1 of the main character Philip. She's being attacked by the disco dinks. I called them that because I didn't hear what they were called, but it's like, and the song is being very on the nose. It's like, as she runs away, and that's basically what the song is. It's like, she's saved by a white knight. He appears on the screen at that moment, and it's very much basically telegraphing exactly what's going on in the scene. Like I said, that brought me out.
Well, like I said, if that's not what you care for, then I suppose it would be a low light for you. My low lights is actually a lot harder, like I said, to discern, because this is really the type of thing I like. But I would say, well, you mentioned them before, the Disco Dinks. Well, I enjoyed them as really bizarre characters. I think they appeared too many times compared to every other thug in the movie.
Okay, so this is the Disco Dink shtick. They're a pair of children. I'm assuming we're supposed to assume they're like little people who, yeah, they dress like John Travolta meets Elvis Presley, and they run around with big guns, and they're constantly swearing at everybody.
I don't know.
And were they twins?
No, they're just kids. I think they're just supposed to be kids. I don't think they're supposed to be like midgets or anything like that. I think they're just supposed to be kids, and they're supposed to be bizarre that kids would be like this, grotesque. I didn't have any problem with them as characters. I just thought they were too many times.
I had some problems with some of the acting in the film, but it's a very hammy film.
Kind of goes with the style.
Yeah, your 2 main characters, they played it pretty straight, except for Marlowe's constant screeching.
Yeah.
And also, just as a little slide, that this was kind of not a little light, but it's like something that they kind of didn't really call back to a lot. They set it up as, I spent the last 15 years, my Christian Bale voice people, practicing my magic and Marlowe practiced his dancing. And really the dancing for the dancing detective Marlowe happens a little bit in the action sequences because he kind of does a little acrobatics and all that. But the magic, the sleight of hand, only is used like once or twice. It's supposed to be part of their characters, but it's not really utilized well.
Well, it's supposed to be also part of Philip's character, as he's kind of a crafty guy, especially compared.
Yeah, I know, but he doesn't really do it. It's there. It's like he's very good with sleight of hand. It's like, okay, that's going to come into play, and it does come into play. But like I said, it just felt like they didn't like go for a lot of the things that they were setting up.
Yeah, I understand.
And also, Marlowe is an idiot who yells too much in a Fred-like fashion. If people get that reference, please, I hope you don't.
So, Len, let's go straight into the scores. What would you score this movie?
What would you score the film, JD?
You're looking for me first, huh? Well, okay. Like I said before, I really like these types of movies, and I really like this one in particular. To give it an honest shake, I would give it a 4 out of 5. It's not a perfect film. It has flaws, which we just talked about. But on an enjoyability factor, this is a movie I could put on a lot and really enjoy. It hits all the right notes for me. So that's a solid 4.
I give this movie a 4.
You give it a 4, really?
This is the most enjoyment I've had out of all the movies we've watched.
All of them?
So far, next to Death Wish.
Wow.
Keep in mind, I've only given a 4 to Death Wish, and and Death Wish was a 3.5 movie going on 4. This is a 3.5 movie going on 4, but I would actually put it up slightly above for me over Death Wish. Like everything seemed to there's a reason why this is a cult classic film. It's charming. While there are the weird things of the music being like too much, some of the acting not being great, but that's part and parcel of a cult classic. It's like the movies aren't perfect; they don't always work well, but there's something about it that elevates to that status. So for me, this is a 4. It's been the most fun I've had watching a movie out of all these movies so far.
It was a very enjoyable film. I'm glad we got to cover it for non-canon.
It's like there's a lot of things I could actually go in thematically. I could talk about. There's a lot of stuff here where this felt more like a complete movie than, like I said, than some of the other ones. It's like, it's been tickling the part of my brain that could go. I could sit here and I could analyze this. I could break it down. I could pull out all the references and elevate the movie higher. Whereas a lot of other movies where I'm like,
this is a movie I'd watch multiple times.
I would actually watch multiple times. It's like
I'm not sure if it's changed since then though, but I'm not even sure this movie's like out on DVD in like the Americas, which would be a real shame.
That's what I was actually going to be checking afterwards to see if this was available in some way, shape, or form, so I could have a physical copy of it lying around.
Yes, this is a very good movie, and it really deserves to be seen by more people. Especially if you haven't seen it, I would recommend seeing it.
And also, as a quick, like a little side before we go, it's like, and people, if you like this movie, you'll also like the movie I mentioned earlier. You'll like Six Change Samurai. So it's a different pace, but it has that same sort of zaniness, that same sort of weirdness that this movie has. And I would recommend that one as well, just as a bonus.
All right, so that was a lot of fun to talk about. So let's wrap
as much of a mess as it was to talk about. It was a lot of fun to talk about.
We apologize. This was kind of a strange day for us. All right, guys, we're the Canon Cruisers, and we'll see you next time when we continue cruising the Canon catalog.
Here's JD.
I'm JD.
I'm Randy.
He's Randy.
And I'm saying goodbye, not waving.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Such a trouble guest, so inviting. I'm on the edge of heat distress. Ooh, you'll treat me bad tonight, yeah. Turn my dreams to real. Why don't you go on in and take it easy?